Greetings, Patrick here, Eight Questions With, and welcome to the show. Yeah, it's a chilly night here in Southeastern Michigan. Got a sweater on. Uh, the cheetah was underneath his blanket earlier. It's yeah, he hadn't done that yet, but he came up there today and he slid underneath the blanket, so I knew he was a little chilly. Um, Glad you guys are here. It's been an interesting day for sure. Interesting couple of days. Um, yeah. So glad you guys are with us. Uh, Gotta give some shout outs. I want to shout out my buddy Hobbs from Hobbs Har. Yeah, I thought about you a lot on this one, Hobbs. We're gonna be talking to Jake Young. I was thinking about, I know that, know you guys you're busy, but I was thinking about you when I watched Jake's film, Souls Chapel, and I gotta say one thing. I give any filmmaker credit for doing a neo western or a supernatural western. I really, the more I think about it, I think that's actually a pretty damn hard genre to do. Um, it's difficult. You're dealing with cowboys and supernatural elements, or even sci-fi elements. That's I think it takes a lot of cojones to do that, and it isn't easy. It isn't easy. It's I think it's just really hard, and we're definitely going to be talking to Jake about why he decided to do this film. I know that he partnered with one of his stalwarts in doing this film. As far as writing it goes, Jake directs it and he stars in it, and the movie itself, which my review will be coming out tomorrow. As you know, I never post reviews before I do interviews. David Daring wrote the story, and Jake starred and directed it. My review will be out tomorrow afternoon. You guys can check that out, and then let me know what you guys think. But I'm looking forward to this. I got asked to do this from a couple of days. So shout out to our good friend Scott. We got you covered. Um, Thank you for the opportunity to talk to Jake. I appreciate that so much. And maybe we'll talk to some of the rest of the cast later on down the road. Um, but yeah, um, there's that. I do got some. I know that some of you guys were here for Tuesday, and we talked to Mindy Doherty, and that interview just got deep. Um, and so I know some of you guys that came over to watch, expecting the usual interview, which are deep in of itself, but not quite like that. I'm just going to let you guys know that Mindy will be coming back on May 13th, and this time we're going to be talking movies, just because I really wanted to do that. But you know what? You just go where it goes. There's no set plan on how the show's done. It can go in any direction. It really can. And last Tuesday, I felt it was appropriate to let it go where it went. So I thank you guys all for coming out and supporting that show. I appreciate it so much. We do got some shows coming up. Um, this is our last show of April, of course. May we have on May 7th uh, uh, we have Owen Llewellyn coming in on the 7th at 3 p.m. Let's see. We have, oh, yes, I will be recording a new RetroTube with Madame Cadaver. That's right. Madame Cadaver is back, and her and I are going to be teaming up to do our RetroTube. Can't wait for 2 weeks. She picked a winner. She picked another winner, and it was really cool. I'm like, yeah, that's what we can talk about. We also will be talking with Al Lucard. Me and Al Lucard are also going to be teaming up here to do a RetroTube TV. We're going to be talking about Highlander. There shall be only one, but ours is going to come with a fun twist. and I hope you guys enjoy it. I love that show. Highlander is one of my favorite shows. So, um, yeah. And speaking of favorite shows, me and Mr. Dan, we teamed up together and we did a retro 2 on Paladin. Have Gun Will Travel, um, season 3, episode 1, To Catch a Tiger. Yeah, it was pretty awesome. Gotta tell you, kind words for you guys too. Hey Tony, how are you, sir? Kind words from you guys too in the comments. Um, Trampus, I wonder if he knows that's going to be his name from now on. Even though I know it's not his name, but all of a sudden now I'm just calling him Trampus. I had not know. I did not know that he wasn't really too aware of Have Gun Will Travel. But then again, you find out there. You know what? No, I didn't know about Have Gun Will Travel. I didn't know about Have Gun Till Travel until I got here. We got here in this house. So you're talking like 2006, 2007. Um, that's when the first time I saw Have Gun Will Travel. So no shame in sitting there going, I haven't really heard about that show. It happens. But now that you do know about it, though, now you can really enjoy it and hunt down the seasons. So me and Al, we're also going to be doing a Western too. Me and Al are, we're going to be talking about the Young Riders, which came out on the trail on the coat heels of Young Guns. So they came out with the Young Riders. But I got to tell you, man per man on that show, pretty damn even, pretty even with the star power in that show. I think a lot of people will be surprised to see who was actually in that movie or in that TV show. There was some power. There's some powerhouses in there cutting their teeth. So we're gonna be talking a little bit of Young Writers in May. Um, let's see. On the 12th, we have actor and director and all and horror host Gary Hill will be with us on the 12th at 8 o'clock. And of course, Mindy, I said on the 13th. And then of course, on the 25th, Will Colazzo Jr. will be with us. We'll be talking all things Dead Pizza Man, and other films that he's done. And on the 31st, the 31st of May, this is to my friend the Care Bear. The 31st of May at 8 o'clock Eastern Time, 5 o'clock Pacific Time on the 31st of May, 8 o'clock, we will be discussing Suitable Flesh, and we will finally get the debut of the Care Bear joining the IFC Midnights. She's going to come in and guest host for an episode. I can't wait to get the Care Bear on there. Carrie is always interesting to listen to, and I am still blown away by our show we had last Sunday that was led by, despite being very sick, but Jen from Jen's Reviews from the Grave came over and just kicked ass. Not only did she kick ass as a host, but she kicked ass in picking a great movie. We covered Summer of '84. Highly recommend that movie. That movie is good. I recommend this. If you really want to go crazy, have a double header, have a double feature. Yeah, like the Wonder Twins. You can have a double feature. Clove Hitch Killer, Summer '84. Could not put two better films back to back. Could not do it. Both really powerful films. I mean, real powerful. And there's some light moments in them, but man, the last third of each of those movies, bangers. It's a really good, real good movie. Both of them are real good. Now we covered the Clove Hitch Killer on the IOC show. So if you want to see what we thought about the Clove Hitch Killer and Summer '84, just go to my playlist and you'll be able to find it and check it out and drop a comment. Hit the like button. See, Tony's in here. Yep. He says that he's going to be taking a break from Instagram. He says, so I have a feeling, let's see. Oh, let's see. How I'm doing well since here, and your dog Christmas is doing well. That's awesome. Good to hear. Good to hear. So Jake Young, our guest tonight, uh, I believe he is related, if I'm not mistaken. If I did not read that wrong, but he'll tell me first thing he gets here. I believe he is related to the Eastwoods, Clint Eastwood. In fact, he actually called himself Jake Eastwood when he first started out in the business. Now he's going by Jake C. Young, which actually makes sense because you don't want to use the Eastwood name to advance your career, right? I mean, and Scott Eastwood was the same way. It took him a long time before he and Allison as well, before they both embraced their last name for their career. And it hasn't hurt them at all. It hasn't hurt them at all. It's actually done very well for them. Scott Eastwood is a really good actor. Allison Eastwood has done some really good work. But I think Jake did the reverse. He went ahead and he started out with the Eastwood name, but then he's going back to his name, Jake C. Young. That's what he's going under, and I can understand that when you're just getting out there trying to cutting your teeth. Um, you don't want to tread on that name. You want to stand up on your own, and so I totally respect the fact that that's what he's done. But at the same time, you don't want to go ahead and forget your legacy either. I mean, if you are Eastwood, then you're damn proud. You have every reason to be damn proud of the name, right? Um, as far as when the cameras are not rolling and you're sitting there with your friends and family. I mean, you can be yourself. So I don't know how this is gonna go. All I do know though is that he definitely paid homage to Clint in Soul's Chapel. He definitely did that, and I really appreciated that too. I thought the homage was very respectful and very fun. If you're a Clint Eastwood fan like we are, you'll instantly, as soon as you see it, you'll go like, "Yep," and that's a good thing. That's a good thing. Um, like I said before, and Jake's got himself a nice career going here. He's done some fun movies, and he's worked with some good actors. He's worked with Diane Franklin from Last American Virgin, and he's worked with Nancy Ann Ritter from the Elm Street films. And yeah, so he's cutting his teeth. He's got a nice crew that he works with. Some people that he feels confident working with on different projects, such as Gage Carnes. He's worked with Brian Bremer. He's worked with Jeremy. I think just Jeremy Powell. Joseph, I know Joseph McDowell, but where is his? There it is, Jeremy Boggs. He's worked with Jeremy Boggs. Um, so he's got himself a nice crew there. Nice Howard Hawks type of grouping, right? I love talking about Howard Brooks, Howard Hawks, because I think he did it right. Right, he got himself all the actors that he wanted to work, and he had them in a Rolodex. And every time there was a new project, he would go ahead and reach for that Rolodex and bring up one of his steady actors to come up here and shoot with him. And it looks to be that Jake is doing the same thing. So yeah, as far as like the bigger picture goes, I know some of you guys, I've been hearing people talk about um, if and when the Magnificent Seven is going to get off the carpet. As far as I understand, they are still making that. They're going to make a series out of it, but it's not going to be a full season series. It's going to be between 8 to 10 episodes. Now, is it going to be a limited series? I don't know. I don't know how. I would love to ask, but I don't know how the streamers decide which project gets another season or not. Um, they don't make very many. They make 10 between 8 and 10 episodes. It used to be 10 to 12, but it seems to be 8 to 10 now. It's just even if you, I mean, I get I mean, if you did like if you did it like the English do, and like I'm going to be covering this after our show tonight, but I watched this show here. I watched this show called Inspector Morse, and when you look at it, it's a TV series. But what they did was is that they filmed their series for as feature movies for an hour and a half. It's an hour and a half, 100 minutes or 2 hours with commercials. But they put 5 movies in. They put 5 films. And with streamers, they don't necessarily do that. The doorbell has rang, so I'm going to go ahead and get it. Thank you for coming in. Those who can share us out, thank you for that. Those who are here for the replay, thank you for that. And let's go talk to Jake C. Young and Souls Chapel. There he is.
Hey, man, can you hear me okay?
Hear you perfect.
Awesome.
Good meeting you, Jake.
Yeah, you too, man.
I know this. I know Scott put this together for us at the last minute. But you got to be ready to do press at any time, right?
Yeah, right on, man.
So let's just get this out of the way right away, because I know a lot of people ask you this. Now, you are related in the Eastwood family, right? You were like a cousin. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I before you got here, I was talking about it, and I'm going like, I appreciate the fact that you're going underneath Jake C. Young, and you're not using the Eastwood name per se, because because that is a calling card. I mean, I like the idea that you could have did it and you started to do it, but then you reversed it and said, you know what, I'm my own person. I'm going to do this on my own. I don't want anybody. I don't want any help from anything, from anybody, from the name, or you just want to be who you are. And I like that. I like that a lot. I respect that tremendously.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
And it didn't go unnoticed in Souls Chapel, the homage. As soon as I saw you walk into the camera, I said, "This is badass already." Yeah, I was thinking, I wonder how many Eastwood fans are going to walk in there when they see this movie. They're going to walk in there and look at that and go like, "Oh, that's a hell of an Easter egg."
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah, the poncho and everything.
Yeah, I loved it. I absolutely loved it. The only thing was missing was the cigarello.
The cigar, yeah.
Yeah, it's the only thing that was missing. But otherwise, that though, it was done respectfully, and it was fun, and I definitely dug it. So yeah, my review for the movie, by the way, just let you know that I did review it. It comes out tomorrow. I never do reviews before I do interviews. I shot myself in the foot it was my own fault. I shot myself in the foot. So after that, I always resolved never to do that. So it will come out to. I got to say, I was thinking about the movie today, and I got to tell you that this genre that you did, the neo-western, the supernatural, there's a reason why there's not very many of them.
Yeah,
because they're goddamn hard to make.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I was actually, I mean, I can only think of 4 films. Yours, the two by Clint, and then one called Pale Door. That I know that it's hard. I guess my first question to you would be, why did you pick the genre? Why did you pick that one?
Oh, wow. So, man, originally, whenever we had first started kind of doing this project, I wanted to do a Western, obviously for a long time, just kind of wanted to, fulfill that homage, I grew up watching these movies. I grew up, with that being a big part of my life. And I was like, man, I want to do a Western. So I had attended this convention where I was a guest, and surprisingly enough, it was a horror convention in an old west town. So they were doing like this old west town convention type thing. You know, with they had people from like The Walking Dead, and it was a pretty cool thing. And as I was walking through there, you know, I was walking around, and I was like, you know, this would be a cool place to shoot a movie. So from there on, the idea just slowly began crafting and crafting, and it kept building. And as it did, you know, I had started writing out a treatment, and I kind of had something written out. And the producer, who's a friend of mine, he does writing with me sometimes, and you know, I let him look at it, and he's like, "Man, this would be really cool, you know, put this into fruition and make this a film." And so that's what we did, and you know, we based a lot of the stuff that's in the movie off of some local lore at the real place called Souls Chapel. So Souls Chapel is actually a real place in Kentucky, and we based a lot of our story on some of the lore surrounding that, and then we kind of took some creative liberties with that. But yeah, it was just kind of the love of the Western, and you know, mixing that horror element in there, kind of having like an old West type supernatural deal with like a hint of, you know, like a new age type of thing that, you know, you like you said, it doesn't seem to happen very much. So this
No.
was really cool to, you know, kind of pull off a genre like that.
Did you realize that once you got into it, like, you know, like a lot of movies, you know, like you think about it, like a lot of movies, I mean, you could actually, you know, some people can, you know, say, "Oh, how can we make this really work? Let me just peek over at the Halloween and see how they did it," you know, and bring
Yeah.
elements of the movie. But you don't have very much for here. You got like three movies to draw upon that I know of. I mean, if there's
Yeah.
more out there, then, but I can only think of three off the top of my head that, you know, of a Western, a horror Western. And I just think, where do you, you know, this is all, I mean, I'm sure some of the script writing meetings, you know, some of the script writing, some of the meetings you guys had, I'm sure they were pretty interesting as far as where do we want to go with this film and how are we going to get there. Um, so tell us about how you know, how did you, you know, how did you decide to, did you start out as a straight Western and then evolved into the horror, or did you always plan it to be this way?
Well, so I always kind of planned it to be a horror film with some Western elements. But it all started out strictly as a Western, and you didn't have a lot of some of those extra elements, you know, like kind of like the steampunk like feeling vibe you get throughout it, you know, with
Right.
like some of the different stuff. It wasn't always intentionally done that. Originally, it was supposed to be a film that was just kind of based around the time of around, think towards, you know, maybe the beginning of the First World War, you know, early age, when the way the Western was on its way out. And that was kind of the original thought process we had behind it. And just as we got, you know, coming up with stuff, it just sort of evolved. And, you know, as we began doing things, you know, you get a lot of you get a lot of stuff, you know, that we added in there, like, you know, some hooded creatures, and then, you know, from like you said, some of those horror westerns. There was one that was made called Dead Birds, and I that was one I kind of enjoyed. And surprisingly enough, Brian Bremer, who's in this movie with me, he was in it. So you know, that was kind of a cool little homage that we got to pay tribute to a lot of other films. And you know, we just took a lot of different liberties with that, and it just kind of grew into its own thing. And you know, like you said, it just sometimes, you know, the genres, the best way to do it is just to make it happen. You know what I mean?
Right. Th- Now I know that the budget for the film was minimum, and you kept it pretty much kept it, you know, like a bottle room film, you know,
Mhm.
with one location, several rooms. Um, do you feel like, do you feel, I mean, and I said this, it looked like you took every penny that you had and put it on the screen. Um, how much, how satisfied were you with what you got with your budget wise? How happy were you with, do you feel like you got your money's worth, or was there certain things that you wish you could have changed about it or added to it?
Well, there's always things that I wish I could change once I've gone back and seen it. I mean, I think every filmmaker, everybody who's ever done anything was like, man, I wish I'd have done that different. But for what we got, And the way that it came about, I was actually very, very impressed with it because at the premiere of the film, when we showed this, we showed it at the Black Mountain Film Festival, and I had a couple of guys come up to me afterwards, and they're like, "Oh man, that looks so cool." They're like, "Where did you actually shoot that at?" They're like, "Where was where's the place that you used for the church?" And I was like, "Well, funny story. So I built that set. Me and one other guy, we built that in like 3 days. That's all in my garage."
Oh, really? The
Yeah,
interiors are in the garage?
yeah, all the in my garage.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
yeah.
Now,
So when you say a bottle film, it's really tight knit because we had a location that we were originally going to use, and like 2 days before we're ready to roll, I get a call and like, oh hey, we actually have a remodel going on, and we're not going to be able to let you use this. So I'm like, oh.
wow.
I was like, just shit, what do you do with that? You're just like, what do you do? So we kind of put our heads together, and we worked really hard, and 15 hours later we have the set you see in Souls Chapel. So I was pretty pleased with all things considering.
I thought you were right. I thought the chapel was the original chapel because it looked like it, it looked like the
Yeah,
whole setting. It looked legit. It was like,
yeah,
okay, they're out there in Kentucky, probably, freezing their asses off. Um, and the buildings itself, it looked completely like, okay, I wonder where they got this at.
yeah.
So this was not in Kentucky. Where was this? What state was shot in?
Well, it was filmed in Kentucky, but so the
Oh,
actual
okay.
building of where the Souls Chapel, like the actual building here, I don't know, see if you can see the building
Mhm.
is
Yep.
it's no longer existent. That is
That's all.
it got burned down. So it was for a long time. It was a lot of local lore surrounded the place, but they burned the actual chapel down. So you can still go visit the land and the graveyard and the foundations and everything, but you can't actually visit the building anymore. So no, we had to basically replicate it, based off of what we had and our best memories, and everything that we have was just it was all set decor. And I got lucky. I had an award-winning set designer. Is He's one of my good friends, and he also helped produce the film. So it was really nice having someone like that on your team that you can be like, hey man, I got something. And he was like, don't worry, I got you. So we built that whole thing in like I said, like 15 hours in the garage. And I mean,
Yeah.
a lot of the stuff, like in the scenes where I'm all chained up, in like the barn looking area. I mean, they're literally pallets just screwed together and stuck up
Right.
there. So, but yeah, we built the whole thing. It was
I,
kind of.
I, I was I was wondering if that I was wondering there's a key piece where the drifter isn't locked up and he's trying to get out and he's trying to get a little piece of the wood. I was
Yeah.
wondering, was that there by accident or was that part of the story? Because I'm thinking maybe that felt, maybe that was part of the build and you just kept it there, or was that planned?
So it was in the script, but that actual piece, see, originally in the script, it was just supposed to be like a small nail, and that piece was actually there from the build. So we kind of I was like, you know what? Let's just use it. I'm looking around. I was like, hey, I see the thing. So I was like, let's fish for it. So that's what I did. And we just kind of left it in there, and ultimately, I feel like it kind of worked. I feel like it worked very
I think
well.
it worked fine. I think
Yeah,
it worked fine. I was thinking to myself, shit, that piece of wood might have got himself a career now because he
yeah,
was pretty, he was like he was keeping you at bay because you were sitting there trying to stress, trying to you find yourself in situations like that as a viewer. You find yourself with empathy with the character, like, come on, Ray, come on, just a little bit further, come on.
yeah. Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, that's what I said. That piece of wood, it's going to be the sequel, all about that piece of wood surviving. That's going to be the main character in the next one. Forget me.
that's right.
It's just going to follow that one piece of wood with the screw in it. He's going to
Uh,
finally meet his match.
How about this? I mean, you could be the drifter, and that could be driftwood.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'll have to change my name to Jake Driftwood.
Now, I like the idea. I thought it was cool. Like you did mention, I was sort of hoping to go in a little bit bigger, but I had a feeling it was budget, a little bit of budget. But I love the beginning when you first come in and you have the steampunk weaponry and
Yeah,
the accoutrements to it. I thought that
yeah.
was actually really cool. Um, I mean, who came up with that idea to try to to blend? I mean, because it like I said, the guns worked. I thought the guns were really good. I just wish there had been a little bit more costumey for it. But I have a feeling, like I said, I have a feeling there's just some restraint to it, budget
Yeah,
restraints. But yeah,
yeah.
but
I
your
feel like
ambition,
yeah, yeah. So I think actually kind of what the thought process was we had some steampunk stuff and we originally kind of cast it out that way as we done it, so we just mixed some steampunk elements because I mean, yeah, as the steampunk stuff can get a little bit crazy sometimes, when it comes to costuming and stuff like that. So what I will say is that it has been an open discussion about possibly, eventually maybe revisiting that same kind of universe and that same kind of place, with more of the steampunk elements involved. If it ever decides to come to that, maybe do something that's sort of a similar to a follow up to something like this, and explore that a little more. But that has been talked about, and nothing's set in stone. But it has been explored a little bit because I'm like you, the more that we mentioned it, it's kind of something you want to know more about. You're like, what? You kind of want to see more of that steampunk style stuff in the Western, and it's interesting. And we just kind of touched on it, and I feel like we just kind of scratched the surface. So that's
yeah.
definitely been a discussion that's been floating around for a little bit.
I think steampunk is really cool when it's done right. I think it works.
Oh yeah,
It's such a makes it such a unique film set. There's so much to look at.
yeah, yeah.
Um, Now, I will mention that, like Clint, and I noticed you do the same thing that he does, and actually he did what Howard Hawks did, and that is you tend to use a lot of the same actors. So to
Mhm.
walk us through the process about that, how did you come to that? Was that on your own, or did you notice that when Clint when he did his movies, you noticed that he did a lot of the same people over and over? Was that something you picked up from him, or was it picked it from you, or was it picked up from a different director?
A little bit of both. Originally when I first started doing that, I picked up from a lot of people, and I think Mike Flanagan right now is one of the only people that's currently still doing that, using a lot of the same people. Um, but originally it came down to you get those budgetary constraints, but then I got past sort of doing that, and I was able to cast more. But when you find people that you really like and you find people that you trust and are going to really kind of pull off that role and what you want to do, it makes casting other individuals, it can be a little hard. Um, so yeah, it definitely was something I kind of picked up, after watching films like things that Clint had done, or Howard Hawks, or seeing even now modern day with Mike Flanagan. It was something really cool, and I felt like it was really nice to be able to use people over again that I had worked with previously and kind of place them on something new. And in fact, I'm actually currently working on a new project, and a lot of the same individuals from Souls Chapel have made their way back into this one. Just because you kind of find a solace there when you get used to working with certain people, and if it's if they're good, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So that's kind of
Right.
the way I like to go off of it.
I think that's a good way to put it. I like the idea too that you're using them. They're working actors.
Yeah.
The industry being what it is with it contracting. The contraction is affecting movies in a lot of different ways. A lot of movies now. You're finding yourself seeing actors in some smaller budget movies that you would never thought you see them in, but there
Mhm.
they are. It's because they have to work.
Right, right, absolutely, yeah, and it's just it seems like independent cinema is slowly starting to take over more and more, past like Hollywood and stuff. You got a lot of movies that are out now, and honestly, I can't remember the last time I seen a Hollywood produced film that was good. And I think independent cinema is slowly beginning to I think it's starting to take over a little bit more, and you're going to start seeing bigger and bigger stars be in smaller budgeted productions, and nothing against them. It's just I think sometimes that cinema it needs a good revamping, and because me personally, I feel like a lot of the big films that are coming out by the big studios are just repeats. I mean, they're repeats of
Yes.
things we've already seen over and over and over, or
Mhm.
a pointless sequel or something that it really just doesn't need to be there. And it's just it's sad that it feels like the creativity is running out. So I think a lot of these independent artists and filmmakers and people who are making stuff, I think they're going to be on a rise coming up, just because they are very creative, and they're breathing in like new breaths of fresh air into certain genres.
I'm with you on that. Pretty much I'm pretty much love independent myself. If you go through my channel, review films, and a lot of them are independent. Very few big budget stuff, because I'm with you. I haven't gone to the theater since it part two, and
Yeah,
I'll be honest with you. I have been honest with you, Jake. I don't really miss it. Um,
yeah, yeah,
I go find an independent film. You can't get them at the stores anymore.
yeah.
And you just get them when they can. I noticed that you have physical media. You have hold that DVD back up, because I
Yeah,
didn't. I
yeah.
didn't. Yeah, show that bad boy. Look at that. Now, see that's the other thing too. Physical media now. It's I that's impressive. I
Yeah,
did
yeah.
not know that.
Yeah, physical media to me, and I think you'd probably agree with me, and a lot of other people would. I miss the days of going and being able to, when I was young, going to Blockbuster, places like that, and renting those videos, like physically getting the media, or going like when a new film would come out, going to buy it. That was like the greatest grand treat for me as a kid, getting to go do that. And physical media, I think, is just it's such a powerful thing. Streaming has changed the game a lot, and you can find a lot of
Yeah.
independent films on streaming now, which is really good. But I miss the old days with physical media where you could go, pick up a DVD or something like that. Just because I remember walking in, I can still remember the smell of the place, and you had all the different films out there, and it was almost like it was magic, and I think a
Yeah.
lot of that's probably what crafted my love of cinema. I remember just walking through there and looking at all the different films, and it was like a big toy store, or like a candy store, but it was filled with cinema. So for people like me who ended up making films later on in their life, that was a really big aspect that I think is that's something that we've really kind of lost in today's market.
I agree. I totally agree with that. I miss those days too. I miss the days where you walk in and you have an idea what you want to watch, but then as soon as your foot goes through the door, it goes out the door too, because
Yeah.
now you're looking at like thousands of different movies. It's like, what do I watch? What do I watch? And it's like
Yeah.
it's the next thing you know, you're in there for an hour. I remember mom and dad be sitting there going like, "Have you found something yet? You got 5 minutes to find something, or
Yeah.
else you got And it's like
Yeah.
then you just don't know what to get. You're in a
Yeah.
rush. Uh, what
Yeah.
what did what movies did you grow up watching? Was it? I know it's obvious, but I mean, a man's got to know his limitations.
That's right.
Uh,
Yeah, I grew up. I grew up a lot watching like again, westerns were a big part of my childhood. I grew up watching a lot of those. I grew up watching a lot of like the Outlaw Josie Wales and Dirty Harry, obviously, and things like that. But I also grew up watching a lot of movies I grew up with. They weren't the typical ones. I grew up watching things like I remember one of my favorite movies from when I was a kid. First time I ever seen it was Rocky. That was one of my favorite films. Yeah, and so I grew up
yeah.
watching those movies, and I grew up watching things like You know, like I remember watching Sylvester Stallone or Arnold Schwarzenegger, those guys that were always larger than life. I remember watching them when I was a kid, and you know, they that kind of crafted my childhood. You know, just learning those different things, and you know, looking up to those people. I was like, you know, I would just everything I always wanted to see as a child. I wanted to. I wanted to become that later on. So and then I decided, you know what? Maybe I should think about something a little more realistic. Maybe I could, you know, just be an actor and then I could be all those things. But yeah, I grew up watching things like Indiana Jones. I grew up watching things. You know, I remember watching like, I remember the first time I ever seen Cujo was like the first time with
Oh,
me and a bunch of my friends. You know, I went to a birthday party and we were probably like all in the sixth grade, and somebody got like, who gets a bunch of sixth grade boys this movie, and it's like, hey guys, you'll love this, go watch it, and we all go upstairs and we're watching it, and like, yeah, I was like, man, I was like traumatized, but it was so cool because, you know, we loved it. But you know, I grew up watching a lot of things like that, and I remember sitting with my dad when I was a kid, and I remember all of our family. You know, we'd gather around every Sunday night, and you know, we'd watch like Walker Texas Ranger, things like that.
yeah.
So you know, that was a big part of my childhood, and you know, unfortunately, when Chuck Norris passed, you know, that was almost, it felt like a part of me passed because you know, that was something that brought our family together. You know, it brought us together every Sunday night, you know, to watch that on TV. So that was something that was you know, it was really important to me as a kid. And you know, as silly as it sounds, you know, those are the things that you kind of hold on to when you're a kid, and you take things from that. And then later on, you know, I've been able to incorporate like things I've seen in movies, like, you know, Back to the Future, things like that, like all those classics that I grew up watching. And I'm slowly been able to learn things from those directors now that, you know, I'm older and making my own stuff. And you know, things that I'm able to pass on. So I mean,
I know
it's really
I know
cool.
one I know one genre you didn't mention during that answer, and that was police. No cops, huh?
I watched a lot of police movies, but it was always more of the it was always, when I say that, it was always more, like I said, it was like Dirty Harry, or we would revert back to like the Lone Ranger and things like that. You know,
Oh,
so
right,
those were the
right.
things that I kind of grew up with. You know, I remember a lot of cops and robbers and stuff. You know, playing that was as a kid, but you know, most of mine was always growing up with like kind of those anti-heroes, like go ahead, make my day. You know, so that's what I kind of remembered of that. You know, I remembered that growing up. So.
When did you find out that you were part of the family? I've just got to ask that because I know people are going to be sitting there begging me to ask that. But when did you find out you were part of the Clint Eastwood family? I mean, is a
Um,
family tree?
yeah, so it was probably, I've always kind of known about the resemblance. You know, everybody's always told me like,
Oh
"Holy
God,
crap!" Like,
yeah,
you know,
you
yeah,
could
like the
definitely see
resemblance
that.
is there. You can't deny that.
Yeah.
And you know, I remember when I was younger. I remember I had like a great grandmother that would always like say things like that, like, "Oh yeah, blah." And I never really put much into it. I always thought it was kind of a joke. So I get a little older and I get tracing back some of my family history. And so I get looking back, and as I start tracing it back far enough, I find out that I think it's Clint's grandmother is who I'm actually related to. Her last name was Young and everything, so it's on that side of the family.
Okay.
Is how it actually traces back. So I know it goes back a pretty good ways, but clearly somewhere along the lines, I got some of the same genes or something. So I mean
Yeah.
it carried over. But yeah, that's kind of how that happened, and you know, I got looking and you know, kind of reached out to some of the family members and stuff, and you know, be like, "Oh, hey, I'm your
I
distant
met
cousin." So,
I met a young actor who found out that same way that he was related to Chadwick Boseman.
oh wow,
His name was and he's doing it the same way you are. He's doing it on himself. He's not using the name at all. He
hmm
acknowledges the relation, but he's not using it as a calling card. And yeah, you know, talent rises. People are going to notice you right away. I mean,
oh
that's the
yeah,
whole thing. I mean, that's yeah, you just want to be known for the talent, not for the name. That'll
yeah,
come later.
sure, yeah, for
And you
sure.
know, I mean, there a lot of people say well, that you know, what's that saying? You know, everybody says, yeah, you look like Clint, but you know, I don't want to do that. I want to look like Jake.
Yeah,
So yeah.
Well, man,
But
I mean,
I had to figure out what movie to watch though, because I'm thinking, I wonder if he was a Western guy growing up, you know?
oh yeah, yeah, absolutely,
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, so like I said, so I think it's part of it. Some of those things that it's like it's just woven into you, and like it's kind of woven into your DNA and stuff. Yeah, like I said, at the end of the day, I'm still Jake, but I'm definitely not mad about being, having that Eastwood relation, and also, being fortunate enough to kind of have a resemblance. I mean, I'm okay with it. I'm not mad about it. So, I mean, it's all good, but you do still want to make your own stuff, and you still want people to
sure.
say, oh, when they hear Jake C. Young, I know that guy from, so it's actually pretty cool to be able to do your own stuff too, and not have to necessarily rely on that. Just kind of use it as an Easter egg.
Well, I love the fact that you took the chance and did it because believe it or not, that's actually one of my top Eastwood films too, is High Plains Drifter.
That Plains Drifter, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
it's one of my favorite ones. It's
absolutely.
crazy,
Um, yeah, absolutely.
and
People don't, I
that
think
was
people don't they don't really realize that because everything's Clint as a cowboy or a cop. I don't think that they realize or appreciate the fact that Clint liked a little bit of horror on his plate once in a while.
Yeah, yeah. And that movie, when it first came out, it was like one of its own kind. I mean, nothing like that had really been done yet.
Mhm.
So, I mean, and then, years later, he follows up with like, what is it? It's
Pale
like the
Rider.
Supernatural Pale Rider. Yeah, yeah, the Pale
Yeah.
Rider film. And, it's like those weren't exactly common, in their day. They were still very, not a thing, but, like High Plains Drifter, it's very much a horror film. It's very much got its own
Definitely.
elements of stuff. And, that's kind of what I tried to touch on here was, make a western but also make it a horror film because these genres they're just not done very often, so it's actually
No,
kind of cool to be able to bring something like that to life and still be able to kind of pull it into like a new realm of being because it's definitely a genre that I think is worth being explored.
I was gonna say, I hope that I hope you come back. You take the lessons learned from doing Souls Chapel, and you come
Mhm.
back and you do it again. Maybe not a direct sequel to it, but maybe like you said, like you're gonna bring up the steampunk element and do that for a different movie. But now you know more clearly defined because now you can draw upon your experience from Souls Chapel. Now you're
Yeah.
gonna take that, and I hope that you do that with supernatural westerns because for the third time, I can only think of like four, maybe five movies that I could think of that done this. Uh, I'm not going to put. I can't put High Plains Invaders. I can't do that. That had James Marsters in it. And I'm like, no, I
Yeah.
can't put that in there.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
Uh,
it's definitely it's its own genre for sure. So being
yeah,
able to step into that is just like a whole different level of like, this takes guts, man. It's like we're gonna do it, and some people are probably gonna hate it, some people are gonna love it. So you just kind of got to do it. Just roll those
now,
dice.
so when did you decide when did you decide to get into movies? I mean, what was your inspiration?
Oh man, I think probably. So when I was a kid, we traveled around a lot, and I always had a big imagination. I always said my imagination was bigger than the places that I lived or where I was. We traveled a lot, and then it was very rural in the areas I was in, and so like I always just had these aspirations. I used to daydream a lot as a kid. So as I would daydream and as I would have these things, just these stories, scenarios, or just seeing these things in my head, I got to where I wanted to live those out. And so I would pretend a lot. I would always do a lot of pretending as a kid. I had a huge imagination. And I think a part of that is just never losing that. So I remember being about probably 13ish or so. I mean, I would have people come over, like all the neighborhood kids, and I had this little camcorder and I would set it up and I'd make my own backyard movies. I mean, I would literally tell them, I'd be like, hey, I will give you like a slice of pizza, you'll come over and be in my movie. And
Yeah.
yeah, they're all like, okay, whatever. But those were the things that set me into wanting to make films and set me into wanting to do um things like that. Um, and it was sort of something you never really grow out of, and you just keep advancing. The equipment gets more, and your imagination gets more, and as you like it, it's things that you can just slowly start building upon and building upon.
Right, right. So you just started making your own films, and just moving forward with that. What was the first thing that you made, and as a director? What was the first, the first time you? I mean, what came first for you, acting or directing? I was thinking directing came first when you had your camcorder, and then you became, when did you get your start as far as being in front of the camera?
So being in front of the camera, I always kind of liked it. I was always really shy as a kid, which was kind of odd, that I wanted to be an actor. But I also, I realized it was something that kind of came with it. I always wanted to be an actor, but the opportunities just weren't really available when I was a kid. So I kind of just, started making my own films and just started making my own things. And as I done that, I was able to kind of be in that because I wanted to pretend. I wanted to be those things I seen. So my first really big breaks I had was, I made a few college films, and those were the first big things I done where I got to be in front of the camera and also, direct and test my skills and stretch my legs a little bit on that. So I done a few of those, and then I done, a few small, really, really indie films. And as I done those, it just progressively got bigger and bigger.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. Did the people, did the doors start open? Were the doors easy for you to come through, or did you, because I'm sure a lot of people wanted to help you, uh, or did you find yourself like, I got this, I'm going to do this on my own, you know, because that's how
Well,
I'm seeing it. I'm seeing. I don't really see you saying, "Okay, I'm going to ride this." They think that I'm this person with,
mhm.
I'm going to go with. I don't see you doing that. I see you going like someone came up to you and said, "Do you know you look like you look like Clinton?" And I can see you sitting there going like, "Thanks, but I'm just me."
Yeah,
Let's
yeah, I,
yeah,
I get that.
I want to audition fairly. I want to be
Mhm.
considered fairly. All the things that you do now for other actors, you want done for yourself. Did you get that when you were younger, or did you find people wanting to wanted you to be on their project, not necessarily because of the talent, but because of the background? And how did you work with
No,
that?
no, I never actually got that, believe it or not. I kind of worked my way up from, just being me, like I said. And it wasn't until I actually got older that my face started filling out a little more because, used to I had like really blonde hair and I was just this young kid. And, I was really trying to get, and I didn't want to use that, that background.
Yeah,
I wanted to, say, hey, man. I'm acting, I'm directing. I want to get my own seat at the table, and so that's
yeah.
that's kind of where I came from that. And as I began, I just started auditioning and getting in some more projects and just doing stuff. But it was mostly, I had to work for it for sure. I mean, it definitely didn't just come to me. It's hard work. I mean, and it's even to this day, it's still hard work. You still gotta
I see.
put that
I
put
see
that in.
that. I saw that with your body of work. It's definitely, it's not mainstream. It's
Yeah.
all independent films. It's the
Yeah.
love for indie film is strong with you.
Yeah,
uh,
yeah,
uh,
yeah. So I've
so
I've had a lot of opportunities to do some mainstream stuff and like have like little cameo roles, but it's just I really enjoy the independent side of it because I kind of get the ability to do what I want to do. I get the ability to not be so controlled by someone at a big executive studio or someone at a higher level. When you produce your own stuff and you make your own films, I get to be the director that I want to be, and I can also be the actor I want to be and tell the stories that I want as well. And getting a good crew to come along with you and do that is it's really nice to be able to have that. And the story with Souls Chapel, I mean, there's just a lot of local lore that was able to get sunk in on that. Souls Chapel was just it was really cool because as I think I'd mentioned, it's based on a real place, but the church and especially around the local areas, there's people that still actively have like family members buried out there. So like this lore is it's a really important part to the local community. And the real place where it's at. And I mean, there's paranormal investigators that still go out there, and it's supposed to be
Oh
like
yeah.
one of the greatest um, haunting locations that are around. So it was really nice to be able to kind of just make that work on that level and be able to touch on those little things.
Our friend Eric is here. Hey Eric, glad you're here. Glad you're here. Yeah, you know what? That's something you mentioned about the paranormal. I mean, it's funny. It's funny that I see a lot of people. They'll grab their cameras or whatnot, and they'll head for the nearest hospital for that. For to do the paranormal hunting. And quite honestly, I always thought, hell, if you really want ghosts, I mean, here's the difference. You got people who think they want to make ghosts to see ghosts. They think it until
Yeah.
they've run across the first one, right? And then
Hmm.
you got the ones that really do want to see it. They really do. And to me, it's like if you really want to see paranormal activity, if you really want to see ghosts and everything, just go to any Civil War battlefield. Thank you
Yeah.
very much. Go
Yeah.
to any one
Yes.
of them. There's
Yeah. So
thousands of people that are buried there.
absolutely, man. So like this actually, the main gap to this story actually took place. So the church was actually founded like on the eve of the Civil War. So like half of the congregation was divided between the Union and the Confederacy. Half supported the North, half supported the South,
That's
and that's
right.
actually kind of it's what caused the downfall of the actual real place. And I actually done an interview with a paranormal investigator talking about his experiences out there, and he'll tell you that the land there is it's very active still. He'll do like EVPs, stuff like that. And so I took a lot of stuff from a lot of local people who had told me about some of this stuff. Like there's a girl in a white dress is like what everybody claims they see when they go out there, and we kind of work that into the film. You see that lady in the white, that was kind of representation of that. And there was supposed to be apparently the reverend there was a pretty nasty guy, and he done a lot of like crazy practices there on the ground. Like everybody started noticing like stuff would go missing and like animals and stuff like that. And apparently there was a big like pentagram carved into the floor, and he was like a double-sided whatever. And it was just it's lore, whether it's true or not. It's just it always made for good tales and good stuff. And a lot of people have a lot of different stuff to it, so it was cool trying to incorporate some of that into this film and just kind of tell those local stories about that.
Were you able to go to the site itself and film? I mean, where the church is burnt down in the cemetery. Were you able to walk out there and film that area too, or did you need a permit for that?
I didn't need a permit, but I sure as hell wasn't going out there because of just all the local lore, man. I was like, nah, I'm not doing that. I think the
Yeah,
most that we done was on our when we done like a Kickstarter thing, and we had actually we had offered one of the perks was to go get like some of the dirt from the ground out there, and for people that bought it, that was as far as I ever made it. I wasn't about to like go out there and like film just because of all the stuff I'd heard. Now you can go out there, anybody can visit. It's a public like area, it's a cemetery and stuff, and people still go out there. And people used to go out there all the time. But I mean, it was something I wasn't doing it. You know what I mean? I was like, hell no, I'm sure as hell not going out there. So
that's
um,
right.
yeah, yeah, I wasn't
I've seen,
taking
I've
any
seen, I've
chances.
seen what's happened to people who've done that sort of shit.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh man, there's so much that I could tell you about that people have told me. And I'm just like, nah. Like
Have-
I'll be okay with. I'll just make the movie about it. Like we'll do it on a sound stage or something. I don't have to do that.
Did you do it? Have you ever done a paranormal hunt?
No,
Have
I've
you ever been
never
out?
actually done one.
Oh, you didn't do one for background?
No, I didn't actually do one, but I took all the research that was given to me by a bunch of paranormal investigators. Like I actually interviewed one guy. He has a paranormal museum here, and Souls Chapel is like on one of his top, places to visit when you're in the area. And I went to his museum and I interviewed him, and I got to take a tour of his museum, and he gave me a bunch of stuff, telling me about the real lore. And just a lot of people who are local enthusiasts gave me like newspaper clippings and different things to
Yeah.
kind of go off of to kind of incorporate those things in there. But
How did you create your newspaper? Because that looked really, it was interesting because I'm taking that the setting of the movie takes place in the future.
mhm,
And so, it's like, because, after the Great War is over and, you had the dystopian feel to it. But then
yeah.
you went inside and the drifters looking at all the newspapers. How did you get those made? How was that done? Because I
Um,
was like, I always wanted to ask that. It's like, how do you distress a newspaper to make it look so old?
we just kind of I had those printed at like a local print shop, and we just kind of like crumpled them up a little bit and put them in there. And lighting was a real thing because there was lights in there, but for the most part, we actually lit that whole entire movie for that part. But like in that scene specifically, we lit it with candles. So like you're really getting those harsh flickering shadows, and it kind of makes it feel a little more eerie. So what you're actually seeing isn't like so much of an old crinkled newspaper as it's a print, but with the lighting tricks, it's kind of playing tricks on your mind and kind of putting you in that feel. So your brain's kind of feeling that oh, this looks like an old newspaper and it's kind of a creepy scene, so doing different little tricks like that sometimes can it can trick your brain into feeling a certain way.
I like the fact that you did incorporate, because a lot of times, because a lot of times people don't think about this, but it's like, well, if you watch the movie and you're confused a little bit about what the setting is, you alleviate that. You turn around, sit there, and say, because you had electricity in the house. And I
Hmm.
thought, well, yeah, it has to be modern. It has to be. It's dystopian. It's not Western. It's a neo-Western. It's a new Western, and and there was electricity in there, so it's like that actually fit. And I thought that was a nice touch, because a lot of times people try to be too cute, and it's like,
Yeah.
no, you have to respect your audience. Your audience knows.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah. Nobody's dumb. Like for sure, they would pick up on this, and like I was waiting for people to pick up on the guns and things, and so I think the
the
coolest
guns
part
look
about
good.
doing that was that we done it, but in the story we never actually go into detail or say anything about it. Like we drop little clues, like he says talks about the Great War and the Queen's time, and then he's talking about like a GPS and and then
Right.
there's things he's like, slower since the world moved on at the beginning. And, you hear all those things, but we never actually directly say it. So like, you're really, it's your mind's kind of filling in those gaps. So originally it was kind of, I was kind of thinking sort of like Mad Max style, that's kind of what I was, that whole dystopian future. And then I've heard other people ask, they're like, so is it like supposed to be in an alternate reality or whatever? And I'm just like, hey, let your brain fill in the gaps, man. You guys fill in those gaps. And that was one thing I really liked about this is we never went into detail and we never really said anything about it. Like it just existed to those characters. Like it was not out of the norm.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you had to watch it real carefully to see what was not being said per se.
Hmm.
So yeah, I thought you did a great job for that. I mean,
Well,
for
thank you,
as
man.
far as that part, yeah, for definitely.
Mhm.
Um, so as far as your acting, as far as going acting, what was your first movie that you did that wasn't in college? I mean, the first real project you did, because you mentioning, I saw that you did one movie, and I want to talk to you about this because I actually think I wanted to know if you got anything out of this. It says you're a stand-in, and believe me when I say this, I love Hallmark movies. So this is why you're getting this question. All right, Jake.
Yeah.
Because I do. I trust me. Um, so you are a stand-in on a movie called A Grand Ole Opry Christmas. That's probably the most major movie that you've been on so far. So my question to you is, what did you get out of it? How did you get the job, and what did you pick up from it? Because I'm sure you picked up. I mean, were you on the set enough to pick up something, or were you just
Oh
there
yeah.
for a day?
I was there for, I think I was actually, so I was a stand-in for the stand-in. So I was actually like kind of picking up, but I made a lot of really good friends that day and,
Yes.
working on that. And I got to work as like a stand-in. You see my shoulder in the back of my head in the movie, obviously standing in for like Christopher Pola. But it was really fun. I got to actually go to the Opry. I got to stand in the main stage and on the circle where people like Hank Williams and Johnny Cash and all these people performed. I got to stand there and like physically stand in the light and stand in that same spot. So that was kind of cool what I
Wow.
took from that. But mostly, I've been on several movies, and several different things where I've been, kind of doing background. But that was one, it was just it was a call I got, from an agent and, asked me if I wanted to do it. And I was like, you know what, why not? And
Yeah.
it just
Love
it
that attitude.
worked, and like obviously, like, I didn't tell anybody who I was or, my lineage, I just went and done it because
Right.
I'm not above doing any of that. For sure it takes a team. And obviously when I got there, well, somebody asked me, he's like, "Hey man, have you ever stood in for Scott Eastwood or anything?" I was like, "Oh shit, well here we go." So, then I have to kind of go into explanation. But
Uh,
it was really cool to go and do that and kind of just do the background work because I enjoy doing stuff like that. I enjoy being on set. I enjoy seeing how bigger sets are run. I've
right.
been in a
That's what I was
lot of
thinking
different,
for.
yeah, I've been in a lot of bigger like music videos like in the Nashville area. I've done a lot of projects, leading up to this, and especially when I was out in LA and stuff and worked on some other stuff, getting to work behind the scenes, you learn just as much as you do from the acting portion because it goes both ways. You got to learn not only behind the camera, but you have to learn the on-screen presence too.
Exactly. Now, that's what I mean. And, to me, it's like you get a chance to, that's opportunity right there. Opportunity knocks. You
Mhm.
get a chance to do a movie like that. Yeah, okay. And again, much respect for you for just being who you are, and walk in there and to sit there and see how, because you're a director.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
to me, it's like to me, if I'm going, some of the questions I asked is like one is like, what are three directors do you like to shadow? Well, guess what? You got to shadow one. In a sense. And as a director, if someone who wants to direct films, I would think I'd be sitting over there with my note. I'd be there with me myself. I'd be there with my notebook, seeing how they're setting up shots, the lighting they use, the pacing that they do, because Hallmark
Mhm.
movies fucking move, right? They don't, it's not like a 30-day shoot. It's like a 12-day shoot or 14-day shoot. How do they move so fast? How do they do it? I mean, besides, having a large crew, but
Yeah,
I,
so taken from their schedule, like plays out of like bigger film schedule. That's kind of how I operate my stuff I do now. For instance, I'm getting ready next week. I wrap on a film, and it has taken me only 8 days to shoot the whole entire thing.
how long did
Um,
it take you to do Soul's Chapel, shoot Soul's Chapel? Because is it easier to do a bottleneck show, or is it a bottle show, or is it easier to do locations?
a lot easier when you have a sound stage, and because you can control everything between your lighting, your sound. So if you have your own, place built, it's a lot easier. Locations add a lot of flavor though into your film, and certain locations, if you're going to use locations, you need to make sure you're working them in where they need to be because locations sometimes, like I said, they add that flavor. You can have a meal, but without any flavor, it's not good, right? So you gotta be able to work those locations in, and I do enjoy shooting on location a lot, but having your own place to do like a sound stage or something or build your own set, it does make things a whole lot easier as far as being able to control all the elements. You can control the lighting, the way things sound, a controlled environment. You can tell pretty much everything what's going on. But in this last film that I've done, I've shot pretty much everything on location. So that's been different. But for the Souls Chapel, we shot the entire film. I believe we shot it in 6 days.
Ah,
It
yeah.
was 6 or 7 days, and then of course you got to go back and get your pickups. But 6 days, and it was crazy because on the final day, whenever we were wrapping up, at the end climax when everything's going down, our set actually ended up flooding. So it was crazy.
Oh,
It was just all meant to be up to that moment, and then it just.
now if you had your druthers, I mean, if you had your choice, wouldn't you rather shoot for 14 to 20 days rather than just 6. I mean, doesn't that? I think that really. I tell you one thing. I think a lot of independent films. I think they fall into the trap of speed making. I don't think it's a good idea myself. I think when a movie is rushed, it looks rushed. I
I
mean,
think
you can see it looks rushed. You know,
if I had my ruthers, I would definitely like to have a few more things. But I will say one thing I do enjoy that a lot of people that are in this industry that I talk to, and they'll talk to me about this a lot, is everyone will tell me just how much I seem to get done in a single day shoot, versus a lot of other shoots they go on. Most shoots you go and you get 3 to 5 scenes a day. Well, there's times I'll go shoot and I'll get like 12 scenes shot in a day. But I think a lot of it depends on, you can't rush the pacing, but it also depends on your director and your scheduling. I like to go in there and I like to get things done. I like to make sure we're running on a smooth tracked schedule. And I think as long as everybody kind of knows their role, knows what they're doing, knows what's going on, that you'll have a smoother shoot and it will kind of rotate into how you want. So I think a lot of that is, and having a good director. A director is, if a director takes his time with each shot and doesn't rush the shots necessarily, you don't have to rush through them, but also make sure like, hey, let's get this done in this amount of days, but let's also take our time with the shots because there's been instances where actors have, they'll tell me like, hey, I just feel like that wasn't as good, and I'm like, hey, I'm good with it. So, I'm good with it. Let's move on. But sometimes they come to you and they'll say, "Hey, Jake, I feel like I could do that better." And I'll say, "If you
right,
think you can do it better, and if you don't feel good about it, let's do it one more time. Let's just do it one more time. We'll see how you feel better about it." And and in some cases, I'll allow that, and we'll go and let them reshoot. But for the most part, I do enjoy the fast paced environment. I enjoy doing it. Getting a lot done in one day and then getting out of there and going home. But definitely, I think it just boils down to each type of director. Each person is different whenever it comes to
do
shooting.
you like to do table reads and rehearsals? Is that part of your game? Your tool chest.
Um,
You know,
I will occasionally I'll do a table read just so everybody kind of has like a mind, like a set pace of what's going on. Read the script and get the pacing and figure out how it's going on. But for the most part, usually that's all I ever do. I don't really do a lot of rehearsals. I kind of just roll into it and do it. Now I've been on some films and some of them I've done. They'll do like 3, 4, 5 table reads up to the shoot, and it's like it's like I don't necessarily get the point all the time of doing like multiple table reads. It's like, okay, if we got the story, then I think everybody kind of gets that on their playing field. As long as everybody kind of knows what's going on, then I'm usually okay with that. So I don't do a lot of rehearsals or table reads. I do a lot of open casting for certain roles too. Absent the people that I usually tend to work with and the ones that I like, I will do open casting because there's a lot of talent out there that I feel like is waiting to be discovered. So a lot of times I'll do open casting for people to put their hat in the ring and send it an audition and just kind of let us see their acting skills.
yeah, I was going to ask you about that too. Like I noticed that the speed of your shoots probably come because the people you work with, they're used to working with you, and they're used to work you the way you shoot. So I'm thinking they're able to adapt really quickly. But if it was a newcomer, someone new to you, maybe not new to the business, but just new to your style, wouldn't it be, isn't it better to I'm just asking, is it better to slow it down? And to me, I think the greatest thing that a director like you have, of course, is the digital camera. Boy, that just changes the game for everybody.
Oh yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
if someone wants to do another take, why the hell not?
Hmm.
Right? I mean,
Absolutely.
I mean,
Absolutely.
yeah, I just that's how I feel. I mean, but I was gonna say because you have such a veteran crew, and I'm taking the veteran crew is also behind the camera.
Hmm.
Um, they just know what you want, and you're able to punch it out and just say in the 6 days. But if half your crew is new to you, if you did an open casting and you got out of the 20 speaking roles, you got 10 new faces. Do you still feel like you need to shoot in 6 days, or are you going to slow it down to get them, acclimated to what we're doing here? And maybe instead of 6 days, maybe you're going to be doing it for 10 days.
No,
No.
no, I always tell everyone, it's I don't ever stop. So if I have some newcomers, if they got questions, I try to hit all that before we get there, and then I tell them we're fast paced. Like most of the time, we don't even stop for lunch. I'll tell everybody, I'll say, eat in between your takes, bring snacks, bring drinks, and we'll go in between. That's just how I like to roll. And honestly, with those new faces, I think everybody, at first, it's kind of a culture shock, but by the end of the film, usually everyone finds a deep gratitude, love for doing a film that way. And I think people find it's almost like it's a new environment to them, and they take in a love for doing multiple scenes in a day because it's very fast paced.
I can understand that.
Yeah, and by the end of it,
What was it
usually
like?
everyone really loves it. Everyone's like, I've had a lot of fun. It just went by super quick.
Right.
So like by the end of it, everyone kind of they have a new appreciation for the rushed pace.
Now you've worked with some names in the industry. I mean, you worked with Nancy Ann Ritter,
Hmm.
and you worked with Diane Franklin. What was it
Yeah.
like working with two names that have, probably, Diane probably a little bit more than Nancy Ann, but they still both have, a name. They still have cachet. What was it like working with were they your first two big stars per se that you worked with?
No, no, I've worked with several. I done one film. I got to work with Bill Dundee, who was a superstar pro wrestler who had trained with Jerry Lawler and was actually the mentor of Stone Cold Steve Austin. I got to do a film with him, and that was probably one of the first big ones I ever got to work with. Nancy Ritter, she was a sweetheart. Diane Franklin, man, she was like, where do you go, working with America's 80s sweetheart? Like how
Yeah.
do you compete with that? She was amazing to work with. But I've worked with people like Tuesday Night from the Elm Street series, and Brian Bremer on this. But I know quite a few people. I've been fortunate enough to have quite a few contacts in this industry of different people that I've been involved with, and other people I've got to meet. Several people from like the I've hosted a lot of different, conventions and shows with a lot of people. I got to present film awards with DJ Qualls, and that was really cool.
Yeah.
I got to hang out with like Ty Olson and a bunch of the people from the Thanksgiving movies. Mike Flanagan's one of my favorite directors, so whenever I got to meet up with, and speak with Henry Thomas at that same place, and Katie Parker, people who have all been in his stuff. It was really really something just wild to me, and like Robert Longstreet and all those people. It was really wild, because I've watched them for so long. And then when you get that Bible chance, to not just go up and meet them as like so much as a person and a fan, but when you're getting to host something and actually getting to spend time talking with them and pick their brain, it's a different feeling, and it's really cool to be able to have those contacts and those friendships and acquaintances that you can kind of set up.
What was it like to work with someone on that level for the first time as a director? Not as just as an actor or as a fan, but as a director. What's I mean, have you ever met anybody that like, holy shit, I'm here on this, like with Diane Franklin, I'm here directing her in a film. Were there any time that you felt a little bit like, like, do I belong here, or were you intimidated at all, or were nervous at all,
Um,
or once you said action, it just all flowed away?
so to me, it's kind of like you say action, you call action, and you do those things, and I have to remember, although it is really cool that they're still here, and this is what they do. They're actors as well. They're here to be directed by me, and sometimes it can be a little intimidating. But you have to remember that you're the director, and they are here in your film. And it was really cool the fact that a lot of people get to work with bigger names on projects, but to have them in your film and you direct them, that's kind of a big step. It's a big leap. But luckily, almost everyone I've worked with has been very, very laid back and super easygoing. I've never really had to meet any of these big names that were like extreme divas on camera or anything. Everybody's been
Right.
pretty easy going as far as their acting skills and just taking direction from me. And ultimately, I don't, I've if I really wanted to pull a card, hey, I got a little bit of name notoriety too, but I don't do that. I look at everyone. I'm here as a director, you're here as an actor, and looking at people kind of all on the same scale and knowing everyone's there to accomplish something together and to say, hey, we're here to make a good piece of art and to be in this. It makes your sense of nobility. It makes it shine a little bit, I think. And I think that whenever people just walk into a shoot, or you're working with a bigger star, and you can talk to them just like you and I are talking. It
Right.
puts things on a whole different perspective.
Now, as you know, because I was just thinking, and I just want to say this as a fan, but I mean, I don't know. You cast pretty much all your films, right?
hmm
So you casted Nancy Ann Ritter.
Yeah, so it's usually me and a few others or people that are producing the project. We all have to unilaterally agree. Nancy Ritter was actually she was presented to me by another filmmaker I was working with at the time. He had kind of had a relationship in the past who had interviewed her and done some things, and then she was kind of presented to me. And yeah, so ultimately, when she was interested in the project, of course I did. I mean, I'm an indie filmmaker. Hell yeah, I mean, I'll do it for sure. I was like, yeah, let's let her do it. So that was that was pretty cool.
I just love that because you know, God, I don't know if she'll ever see this, but I'm just gonna be honest here, man. It always makes me happy when I see an actress like her get a role because I know they're fucking hard as hell to get.
hmm
They can go to all those conventions and they tour on that one role, and you see that, and I don't know about anybody else, but I fucking feel sorry. I'm just like, no, it's like, do you think that's all she is? It's just that one damn role. If you so much like her and everything, then fucking help her. Help her get some roles. Come on, you telling me she can't do indie independent horror and get her name out there? It frustrates the shit out of me as a horror fan, as an indie movie fan or whatnot, when you see
Yeah,
actresses that don't get, or actors too, that they're good enough for the convention, but they're not good enough for your fucking, film.
yeah,
I
yeah,
don't get
yeah.
that. I don't get that.
Yeah, so that's a lot of it. You see a lot of people that kind of get stuck in these cast type roles, or that's what they
Yeah.
got famous for per se. But like I was saying, you have to treat these people like they're actors too. You can't just say, "Hey, yeah, that was cool that they were in that one thing and they got to do that." But if you treat them like they're an actor, and you can appreciate their notoriety that they got and also use them as an actor. I think that's really important, and
Me
I
too.
think that's really nice to do, just as treating them like actors themselves. And I would be the same way. If someone wanted to cast me in something, do it because of my acting, not because of who I am or what I've
Right.
done, but do it because of my acting. And you can enjoy the notoriety that I do have, but it's also I want people to see me as an actor, and that's how I try to look at every name talent that I ever have gotten to work with. I look at them as actors, and yeah, they have notoriety, obviously, and that's good. That's what we bank on. But it's also really good to breathe in a new role, because some of these people,
Yeah.
I mean, they could be in the next modern classic. I mean, it's
Right.
all about it's a respect thing.
Exactly. Exactly. That's how I feel too. It's like, man, it's like I said, you see them out there, they're available, and you talk them up, you talk about them all the time. It's like, why aren't you using them?
Right.
Why aren't you using them? Now you did a movie here, and let's talk about this because you did a movie like this, the Reunion from Hell 2.
hmm
Now you played a role in that as an actor, but the cast in that movie is actually it's pretty freaking amazing. Well, and you brought some, people brought names out there. Um, I dug it. I dug it. I know Johanna, and her
Mhm.
husband Sam, who,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, actually, Johanna's been on here. But what I loved about it is I looked at it and seen all these people out here: Mark Patton, Lisa Wilcox, Linda Manson. I mean, there's people out there that have worked in the industry before, and they just don't get anything. They don't ever get a chance to do movies like this anymore, and it frustrates me because it's like they have a name, they have a recognition, and they have skills. And sometimes, do you wonder if that name sometimes does a name block actors from getting work? Is it like that sometimes? Like you said, like typecast. Is
Well, yeah,
is that
sometimes
one
it
of the
does.
reasons?
In indie films, I feel like in indie films, it changes the game a little bit because Hollywood used to really typecast, but independent films, I feel like that's a good avenue for a lot of those people to explore, and a lot of people that have names and stuff. Now, sometimes as an independent filmmaker, it can be a little intimidating because this person is who they are, but ultimately, at the end of the day, for star talent, I think it's really really cool. For people to kind of get involved in indie film and find a niche there that they can be a part of.
Uh, so you mentioned you're wrapping up a movie next week. What else do you have planned between now for the rest of 2026? I mean, where's Soul Chapel? Has the Soul Chapel been released yet? Is it out?
Yeah,
Can people get it?
yeah, Soul's
Have to-
Chapel. It's currently available on Amazon Prime, Fandango, any of the major um, transactional VOD or subscription. I think next month, well, this month, I guess tomorrow, since we're getting ready to go over, will be available on most of the major subscription platforms and free ones like Tubi, and a place where the indie horror kind of lives at.
Right.
So that yeah, that'll be good. Yeah, you can definitely watch it right now. Watch it on Prime, Fandango. You can search it on Apple or Google Play. All the major streaming platforms. It's also available on DVD at most major retailers such as Barnes and Noble, Walmart, places like that. But yeah, it is coming to like Tubi and some of the other streaming services here in the next
But
month.
buy a copy. That we went
Yeah,
there to buy a copy.
yeah,
Well,
buy a
yeah,
copy and bring
yeah.
it to a convention and come see me. I
I was gonna.
love so I love meeting new people. I love every time I get to go to a convention. I love getting to meet people who have seen my work and getting to autograph stuff or sign it for them because it's so cool because those people have taken time out to come and see me and to watch my stuff and to enjoy it enough to come out and see me and be a part of that. That means the world to me to getting to see those people. And I never turn anyone away. Just because if you took the time out of your day to come and see me, I'm going to make sure that I do my very best to get to meet you and get to talk to you. And, it's just, it's a different world. And, I really enjoy getting it to hear feedback, like genuine feedback, what people thought about my stuff. Whether they liked it, and even if they didn't like it, I take it as constructive criticism and what I can do differently next time. But I love meeting people who have seen my stuff and genuinely have come places to meet me or to have me sign something. I love doing that stuff and I love meeting new people.
Now I have one question for you, as we ride out of here. But I got a question for you, as a screenwriter, as a director yourself. Have you ever sent any of the scripts? Have you ever sent them in to Scott and Allison's agents? Have you ever done that yet, or is that something you think about doing in the future, you- or just
Um,
just let it happen organically?
I done that once.
Mm.
Once I wrote a film and I had it sent in and we had sent it to a few agents because it was going to be made. It was going to be made and financed and everything, and we had a few names that were viewing it and had attached to it. We had a lot of. There was a guy from The Young and the Restless. there was a famous comedian who was attached to it, but my most personal favorite that I really wanted for the role and who had kind of her agent had considered it when we sent out the script was Julia Stiles. And I thought that was, man, I just thought that was so cool, to have that kind of notoriety. Ultimately, the project it was never made. It did ended up, it just, sometimes those things happen. Especially,
Yeah.
it was operating in like a bigger studio Hollywood style. But it never happened. But that was the one and only time I'd done that. Now, a guy who writes with me and who works with me doing a lot of films. He's written several scripts and he's sent things to like Angelina Jolie, a lot of other different people like that. So we have a big arsenal of stories that, are just waiting to be told now that we're kind of operating on an independent level.
Does he do the writing for for your projects, or have you gone into screenwriting yourself?
No, I do a lot of my own screenwriting. A lot of times I'll write treatments, but I'll have him to go in and kind of clean them up sometimes, and fix a few things that, maybe continuity wise don't make sense. But I've been screenwriting, man. I've been writing stories. I remember doing that in high school. I mean, I remember walking around with my backpack having like 8 different scripts, spiral bound notebooks of stories I've written, and I was like, oh, everybody like, what the hell are you doing, man? What are you writing? I was like, I'm gonna be I'm gonna make this into a movie script, and they're like, oh, shut up. And I was like, oh, whatever. So, but I remember doing that. I've been screenwriting for a very long time, so. Then sometimes vice versa. Sometimes I'll have a script come into me that I like, and I'll go in and I'll clean it up and change the dialogue a little bit, and but yeah, there'll be several instances that sometimes I'll just get an idea and I'll just go in there and start writing it out.
All right, boys and girls. On that, we're gonna go ahead and hit our mark. I want to thank the people who came in and dropped by. I want to thank I know this is last minute, so I appreciate it that you guys came in. This will do good on the replay, I do believe. And of course, like I said, you can go ahead and get the movie Souls Chapel. You can get it on physical media. Buy it on physical. I don't want to see anybody walk in there and say, guess what? I saw it. I saw it on streaming. Don't do that to me. Come in here, drop a comment down here. Tell me you bought the damn thing. Maybe if Scott is hearing this, maybe he'll reconsider. No, I totally get it. I think it's cool that you're selling it physical wise. I want to thank you for your time. I want to thank you for your time, and we're out of here. Be good, be safe, and we will see you guys. When will we see you guys next? We'll see you on the 7th with another fine actor, Owen Llewellyn. He did a movie called The R.I.P. Man. That's a banger. That's a good one. And so who knows? Maybe you'll go across the pond. Maybe go to England and do a movie. But otherwise, we're gonna say goodnight right here. Stay right where you're at, Jake, for 1 second. And to everybody else, we'll talk to you soon. Peace.